Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're plunging into a topic that's often misunderstood, maybe hidden in plain sight even. And frankly, it carries a lot of societal baggage. We're talking about emotional abuse. Specifically, we want to challenge that, well, that pervasive and damaging idea that it primarily happens to women.
Right.
And that men, are somehow inherently immune to that kind of deep pain.
Yeah, that's a huge misconception.
The truth, as we're going to uncover today, is startlingly different. This deep dive, it's really dedicated to confronting that harmful stereotype head on. We want to shed some essential light on a rarely discussed yet deeply impactful issue: men as victims of narcissistic abuse.
And it's an issue that honestly touches far more lives than most people probably realize. What's particularly crucial to grasp, I think, is that many men, especially guys maybe navigating their 30s and beyond, are suffering. And they're suffering in this profound silence.
Yeah.
Often they don't even recognize what they're experiencing. They might not have the language or, the social support to even articulate it, let alone find a way out. It's like this hidden epidemic kind of happening behind closed doors, affecting their careers, their health, their whole sense of self, really.
Okay, so let's dive right into how this actually plays out. Our mission today, essentially, is to give you a comprehensive, sort of no-frills look into the very specific dynamics of narcissistic abuse when it's aimed at men. For this deep dive, we've pulled some vital insights, some practical wisdom, and importantly, concrete steps from a crucial source. It's an excerpt from Men and Narcissistic Abuse, A Path to Healing. This isn't just about saying, yes, this happened. It's about giving you, the listener, tools to understand and maybe respond.
And the why it matters here, well, it goes right to the core, doesn't it? This deep dive is about recognizing these wounds that are often, invisible.
Totally invisible.
It's about challenging those emotional taboos that keep men feeling isolated and unheard. And ultimately, it's about guiding you, our listener, towards healing, towards reclaiming your peace. Our goal is really to help you absorb this knowledge quickly, but thoroughly. To understand not just what happens in these relationships,
Right.
but why it's so incredibly difficult to get out of, and maybe most importantly, how you can truly begin that journey back to your authentic self.
Okay, so let's start with what the source calls the dangerous misconception, that core problem. It's this idea that men are just inherently tough, strong, largely unaffected by emotional pain.
Stereotype.
Exactly. Society has, for generations, really reinforced this. I mean, think about the messaging, right? Man up, suppress feelings, just get over it. This conditioning, it's often subtle, but it's relentless. And it leads so many men to just stay quiet.
Yeah, they bottle it up.
They rationalize the abuse away, maybe downplay how bad it really is, or, and this is the really tragic part, sometimes they even come to believe they somehow deserve it.
And what's truly fascinating here, or maybe deeply troubling, is how these cultural norms push male victims even deeper into isolation, into silence.
So,
Well, when a man, especially maybe one who fits that traditional masculine ideal, tries to say, look, she is emotionally abusing me, they're often just met with disbelief.
right, like really.
Yeah, or mockery, dismissive comments like, are you sure you're not just overreacting? Or even, what kind of man lets a woman do that to him? That societal reaction, that lack of validation, it plays directly into the narcissist's hands.
Oh, okay.
The abuser knows he's less likely to be believed or supported if he speaks up. It makes him an easier target. It becomes this really insidious loop that just traps men in their suffering.
That makes sense.
So if you're a man listening and you find yourself feeling, chronically confused, constantly feeling like you're in a rut, maybe like you're perpetually walking on eggshells, this silence, the societal pressure, might be a huge reason why you felt so profoundly alone, especially if you're, say, over 30 and you spent decades kind of internalizing these messages.
It's an absolutely heartbreaking reality, isn't it? That so many men just silently endure this. Okay, let's peel back the layers now. Let's examine what this insidious cycle of narcissistic abuse actually looks like for men. According to our source, it almost always starts with something called the charm offensive.
Yes, the love bombing phase.
Exactly. The narcissistic partner, initially, they just shower the man with intense charm, overwhelming affection, constant validation. They make him feel incredibly seen, desired, maybe even idolized. They often mirror his deepest desires, making him think, wow, I found my soulmate.
It's
It's an incredibly powerful, intoxicating hook. especially maybe for men who felt overlooked or unappreciated before.
Yes, and this love bombing phase, it's absolutely crucial because it builds that foundation, the dependence, the emotional investment. Once the man is hooked, feeling safe, cherished, then the dynamic shifts drastically.
The rug pull.
Pretty much. The very same partner who praised him now starts to criticize him. Maybe subtly at first, maybe not so subtly. Belittles his efforts, controls his choices, systematically works to isolate him from friends, from family.
And these are the classic tactics, right?
Absolutely. If we connect this to the bigger picture, these are textbook narcissistic tactics. Doesn't matter the victim's gender. The source, it details a whole chilling array of these behaviors. You've got gaslighting.
That's the one where they make you doubt your own
It's
reality.
exactly. Systematically denying, twisting things, making you question your own sanity. Then there's manipulation, silent treatments, triangulation that's bringing in a third person to create drama or make the abuser look good.
Oh, right.
Withholding affection as a punishment, and this constant, often quite covert effort to just make the victim feel small, inadequate. And all the while, the abuser manages to look completely blameless, even like they're the victim to people on the outside.
And the victim's internal experience through all this must be just utter chaos.
Disorienting is a good word for it.
Men often describe feeling profoundly confused, like they're constantly trying to fix something that just can't be fixed, always walking on eggshells. They get told they're overreacting, they're too sensitive. They get blamed for every single conflict, every problem in the relationship. And what's really striking, the source highlights this, is how this subtle, relentless chipping away at their confidence. It often leads them to believe they are truly to blame.
They internalize it completely.
You start asking themselves, what did I do wrong? How can I be better? How can I make her happy? It's so important to be crystal clear here. Emotional abuse does not discriminate by gender. Narcissists, whatever their own gender, they target based on a person's empathy, their willingness to give, their capacity for deep connection, not whether you're a man or a woman.
Exactly. They're looking for someone with an abundance of empathy, someone who cares deeply, someone emotionally available. And those aren't flaws. They're beautiful human qualities. But the narcissist sees them as weaknesses, as things to exploit, levers to pull for their own gain. And for men who are often conditioned, maybe, to be the problem solvers, the protectors, this dynamic is particularly devastating because they keep trying to fix a person or situation that just isn't fixable through normal means. They get trapped in this kind of heroic, but ultimately futile effort to earn back the love and admiration that seems so freely given at the start.
Okay, so understanding all of this, the cycle, the manipulation, what does this all mean for men who are looking to heal? Our source laid out a pretty clear, actionable path forward, like a roadmap almost, to reclaiming yourself. The first step, and it sounds like the most crucial one, especially for men suffering in silence for years, is recognition.
Absolutely. For men, maybe over 30, who've possibly spent years, even decades, in this kind of dynamic without really understanding what it was, recognition is the critical first step. You have to identify what is truly happening.
You have to name it.
Yes. If your partner constantly invalidates your feelings, dismisses your concerns, controls your decisions, manipulates your reality, or makes you feel unworthy, inadequate, constantly on edge, that is abuse. And the source emphasizes a critical, really game-changing point here. Abuse doesn't have to leave bruises to be valid.
That's huge.
It's a massive paradigm shift for many men taught to only associate abuse with physical violence. Emotional, psychological wounds, they are just as real. Often, honestly, far more debilitating in the long run.
Okay, so once that light bulb goes off, that moment of recognition, which I imagine can be pretty jarring, the next step is permission. Giving yourself explicit permission to actually feel. Permission to grieve the loss, the relationship you thought you had. Permission to feel the anger, the sadness, the betrayal. Just acknowledging that your experience matters. Your pain is valid.
Yeah.
Our source has a powerful line about this. Vulnerability is not weakness, it's strength. Owning your story is the first act of reclaiming your power. And that feels especially vital for men who've been told their whole lives that showing emotion, particularly pain or sadness, is somehow weak or, unmanly. This step is about dismantling those internal walls.
It really is. And following that permission comes setting boundaries. Let's be clear, this is absolutely non-negotiable for healing.
Non-negotiable. Okay.
Narcissists thrive on control, and they thrive on getting a reaction from you. The fundamental principle here, as the source puts it, is you have to starve the cycle.
Starve the cycle. I like that. How?
It means strategically limiting contact, maybe moving to no contact if that's safe and feasible for you, or practicing what's called emotional detachment.
What's that exactly?
It's not about suddenly not caring. It's about disconnecting from their drama, their manipulation, refusing to get sucked into the endless cycles of arguments or blame shifting. The ultimate priority, and the source reminds us of this wisely, must always be your peace. It's not about punishing them. It's about protecting yourself, preserving your sanity.
And crucially, this sounds like something you absolutely cannot and probably should not try to navigate alone, which brings us to professional support.
Critical. Absolutely critical. Therapy can genuinely be a lifesaver here. It provides that safe space to process the trauma, to start rebuilding your self-worth, and to figure out healthier ways of relating to people in the future.
And if maybe one-on-one therapy isn't immediately an option?
Remember, there are other lifelines. Look for online communities, support groups specifically for male survivors of abuse. You are not the only one going through this. Connecting with others who truly understand your unique experience, that can be incredibly validating, empowering.
Finding that shared understanding. Okay, so recognition, permission, boundaries, support. What's next?
Beyond the professional help, it's essential to actively rebuild your identity. Because narcissistic abuse, it systematically erodes who you are, makes you forget your true self, doubt your own memories, your values even.
Right.
So the practical advice here is intentionally reconnect. Reconnect with hobbies you maybe dropped, friends you were isolated from, parts of yourself that felt silenced or were judged as unacceptable during the abuse.
Bringing yourself back online, sort of.
Exactly. Simple, consistent things can help. Journaling your thoughts, practicing mindfulness, maybe through meditation, getting regular exercise, great for mind and body. And critically, make an effort to spend time with people who see the real you, people who appreciate your authentic self and don't ask you to shrink or dim your light or perform for them.
That sounds incredibly healing. And finally, there's one more step the source highlights, maybe the most powerful: release the shame.
Ah, yes, so important.
Being a victim of abuse does not ever make you weak. It makes you human. This is such a vital reframing, especially for men who might internalize feelings of failure or emasculation even. You were targeted, the source suggests, not because you were fragile. Actually, quite the opposite. You were likely targeted because you cared deeply, because you loved profoundly, because you were emotionally available, maybe because you saw the best in others, even when they didn't deserve it.
Yeah.
Those aren't flaws. Those are strengths. Don't let one person's manipulation, their inability to love healthily, define how you see yourself or define your future.
This point just cannot be overstated. Shame is a weapon. It's wielded by the abuser, and it gets reinforced by those societal expectations we talked about earlier. Releasing that shame, that's an act of defiance. It's a profound act of self-love, and it is absolutely essential for true, lasting healing. It's about understanding, deep down, that you weren't broken. You were simply in a relationship with someone who couldn't value what you brought.
Wow. This deep dive, it really makes it abundantly clear. It is time we fundamentally change the narrative around this. Men can be victims, men can be hurt, men can cry, and men can absolutely definitively heal. Admitting that isn't weakness. It's the ultimate act of strength.
And if you're listening to this and you see yourself in these words, especially if you're a man, maybe over 30, maybe just now realizing what you've been enduring, please know this: you are not alone. You are not overreacting. And you are definitely not broken. Your experience is valid.
Yeah.
There is a path forward.
There is hope. So as you go about your day, maybe just take a moment to consider this. What long-held societal expectation of strength might actually be preventing you, or maybe someone you know, from finding genuine peace, from finding real healing? And what would it truly mean for you, or maybe for men in general, to courageously redefine strength on your own terms? Maybe seeing it as the vulnerability to ask for help, the courage to set boundaries, or just the sheer resilience to rebuild your life after being profoundly hurt. Something to think about.